was the year 1993.
I have always felt that the 90s showcased the best animation shows ever, and with such an impressive list, it's very hard to dispute that notion. 1993 saw some great animated cartoon releases. An all-time classic, typical cliche, made its debut this year. The charming, the wacky, the hilarious Animaniacs. The best way to describe this cartoon was a sketch show, as it did a lot of satire and poked fun at other shows, or movies or events that were relevant around that time period. The main characters, Yakko, Wacko and Dot, the Warner Brothers, featured in the opening credits and served almost as hosts who would present other characters on the show, who in turn would do their own comedy routines. They were always escaping the tower and plotting some mischief, with their Dr. Scratch and Sniff the main recipient of their pranks. As a kid, I laughed a lot at all the slapstick craziness. As an adult, the show has some underlying adult themes which the kids most likely won't get, but the adults most definitely did, which is why a large amount of the audience is adults. The show showcased several others with their own uniqueness and their own brand of humour. Some of my favourites was the Goodfellas inspired Good Feathers, with three birds playing a spoof of the three gangsters from the movie. Slappy the Squirrel, who I would liken to Bugs Bunny, as in being able to outwit and thwart her antagonists in that Looney Tunes comedic way, and teaching her nephew some life lessons. My personal favourite, and most people's as they went on to have their own spin-off show, was Pinky and the Brain, two lab mice constantly plotting to take over the world. Frankly, for intelligent mice, at least in the case of the Brain, some of the schemes were very harebrained and I often questioned their own intelligence. Brain more specifically, as he was the genius of the duo. It is one of those cartoon shows that was a family show in every sense of the word, and it most certainly had a long-lasting appeal, especially as it was rebooted recently in 2020. With the core and the essence of the show all intact, including the voice actors. As a whole, Animaniacs is a very funny and enduring show. There was the 1993 release of Biker Mice from Mars, a show about three humanoid mice who escape their home planet Mars after it's taken over by a race of beings called the Plutarchians? I think that's how you pronounce it. They crash land on Earth and they befriend a female mechanic, Charlie, and they become vigilantes going up against their arch enemy, Lawrence Limburger, who's an industrialist who is secretly a Plutarchian, there's that word again, planning to rob the Earth of its resources and send it back to his race. Now this is one of those shows that I didn't really follow. I would catch some episodes every now and then, but I never really got into it. I thought at the time it was a knockoff of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but with mice. It was action oriented, and I mean human mice rocking leather jackets and motorbikes. It will probably go on my list of shows that I've never watched, but will do so as a note for nostalgia purposes. That list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The show did last about 65 episodes and it has its own fan base, so it most certainly left its mark in the cartoon world. After 2 years of taking the video game world by storm, Sonic the Hedgehog made his animated debut in The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a hilarious slapstick funny cartoon with Sonic and his sidekick Tails trying to outwit and humiliate Dr. Robotnik. There was no real long-term story arcs here, just self-contained episodes with Robotnik plotting to conquer Morbius, Sonic's homeworld, and he was constantly getting foiled with all manner of typical slapstick humour. I remember one time getting ready to watch Sonic, and then something was different. It had a new theme song, a new look. It was a brand new Sonic cartoon, no affiliation at all with the Adventure Show, a completely different narrative-driven show. This version of Sonic became known as Sonic Sat.AM. This was definitely the better show of the two, as I felt it had a main plot and an overall story arc with a much darker tone when compared to the Adventures version. Sonic and his girlfriend Sally lead a team of freedom fighters to take on Dr. Robotnik, who has enslaved their city of Metropolis, I hope that's how you pronounce it, by turning its residents into mechanical slaves. This version of Robotnik was way more menacing and a complete 360 from the bumbling oaf from the adventure show. It ran for 26 episodes over a 2-season period, and it ended on a cliffhanger with Robotnik defeated, but a new villain emerging from the dark with only his red eyes showing. And an interesting fact I discovered whilst I was doing my research was that both Sonic shows were released in September of '93, with the Adventure series lasting longer with more episodes. Sonic Sat.AM was more action oriented, so the better of the two shows in my opinion, but I still did enjoy the goofiness and the slapstick of the Adventure series. After taking the world by storm in the animated realm, Batman the Animated Series took the next step and released a full-length animated feature film just 1 year after debuting its series on the small screen. In the feature-length animated movie, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. A mysterious figure known as the Phantasm is killing some of Gotham's most notorious gangsters, and as a result the Batman is accused of these killings. The Phantasm is linked to a woman named Andrea Beaumont, the only woman so far in Bruce's life to have made him fall in love and try to live a regular life. When Bruce and Andrea meet at a graveyard mourning their lost ones, the two take a liking to each other and eventually they fall in love. However, that love is short-lived when Andrea's dad is in debt to 3 gangsters whom he embezzled money from and he's unable to pay them back. So him and Andrea flee Gotham and Bruce is left heartbroken and goes on to become Batman. After narrowly avoiding the police and getting rescued by Andrea, Bruce and Andrea rekindle their romance. But Bruce is mindful that the Phantasm could be a big obstacle as he believes it's Andrea's father, getting his revenge on the gangsters. This turned out to be false as Andrea's father was murdered after they put out a hit on him, and the Phantasm was really Andrea who was looking to avenge her father's death by taking out the 3 gangsters, and the Joker, who was a part of the mob, as their chauffeur. Now the Joker, like Batman, finds out Andrea is the Phantom and there is a showdown between the two of them, and Andrea faces death until Batman arrives to make the save. After a final showdown between Batman and Joker, Andrea returns and says goodbye to Bruce before disappearing with the Joker, and in classic Mark Hamill fashion, the Joker laughing maniacally. Bruce finds a locket left behind by Andrea, containing a photo of the two of them. He then shrugs it off and then goes on to resume his duties as the Batman. The movie was a very dark and superbly entertaining take on the Batman anthology, with great voice acting to back it up. This film was actually my introduction to Batman the Animated Series, and it was an instant hit for me. Up until that point, my Batman references was the 1989 movie with Michael Keaton and the 60s show with Adam West. This movie took me into a brand new world with the Batman, and today it is my favourite iteration of the character. This is made more so thanks to the superb voice of Kevin Conroy, who many fans agree that he is the best version of Batman ever, complemented by the iconic Mark Hamill as the Joker, the definitive duo indeed. Rounding off this section is a show that many consider to be one of the most successful kids franchises of all time, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. A show about 5 teenagers with attitudes who would be chosen by an intergalactic being named Zordon and his sidekick Alpha 5 to become Earth's protectors. And they were given special powers infused with the strength of dinosaurs to become the Power Rangers. The main villain, Rita Repulsa, had been accidentally freed from her prison and she sets her sights on conquering the Earth. With their powers, the Rangers are able to command vehicles known as Zords, dinosaur robotic-like vehicles, to aid them against Rita's powerful monsters. The show had a rinse and repeat pattern to it for large portions of the show's run. Rita would create and send her latest monster to Earth. Rangers would suit up or morph and fight the monster and defeat it. Rita would angrily retreat and vow to get them next time. The show had a new dimension when a 6th Ranger was added to the show. Tommy Oliver, who would first become the evil Green Ranger as he was abducted by Rita and turned evil and then was set on the Rangers. The story lasted over 5 episodes, introducing the Green Ranger into Power Rangers folklore. Eventually, the spell on Tommy was broken and he became a good guy and joined the Rangers, becoming the 6th member of the team. Now, there's a lot to digest about the Power Rangers, and it's a topic I will definitely be covering in the future on Smugface. There's no denying how massive in pop culture the Power Rangers are. Thousands of merch sold over the course of 28 years, including action figures, clothes, video games, DVD releases, live action movies, and several spin-off shows. The year 1993 was when the Power Rangers were unleashed on the world, and they continue to make their mark. And would you believe it, we are still not done with this year. So what's left? Well, video games, of course. I talk about some of the gaming highlights that were unleashed upon the world this year. So please do join me for the 4th and final installment of...
It was the year 1993.